Hello, plant friends. Hope you guys are all doing well and staying happy and safe and healthy out there. In this episode, we talk about what do the pros and the experts look for in variegated monstera. And by pros and experts, I don't mean me. I mean people who are more expert and more cool than I am. Alright, so we are going to talk about this one here. This is a variegated Albo Monstera. You guys have seen this plant before, for those who have followed my channel. I did this plant in one of my Monstera propagation episodes. It's a lot bigger now than what it used to be. I got this plant basically as these like trunks, and I guess they were rooted trunks. And well, as you guys can see now, stems have kind of come off the trunks and the plant is growing. Okay, so what do experts look for? What do I look for when I'm thinking about buying or purchasing or selling one of these? So the first thing is variegation. Obviously, variegation has to be super important, right? It's a variegated monstera, right? It's like variegation is in the name. So variegation is important, and I think if you look at this plant, if you look at all the leaves, right, you can say that this plant is probably about 30 to 40% variegated. That means that 30 to 40% of the leaves or of the plant is these white parts, right? These white parts that are variegated, that don't have chlorophyll, that are not producing energy for your plant, but they make the plant look really good, right? So that means that, about 60 to 70% of the plant is green. These areas do have the chlorophyll, so they do make energy for the plant. I think the most important thing is the percentage, because like if you have more percentage of variegation or more white, that means that the plant has less of the green, right? The less of the chlorophyll, less energy producing stuff, and less energy producing means that you have less growth or slower growth. So generally I recommend about a 50-50 or 60-40 percentage. So, if you like it more white, then yeah, get a plant that's more variegated or more white. If you like it more green, then yeah, get a plant that's, like this and more green. Don't go too far in any one direction, right? Like if you have a plant that is too green, then you risk that plant reverting and you losing a lot of the variegation, and your plant just turns to a normal monstera. Or if your plant is like too white, right? Like if you have too much variegation, you have a possibility where your plant just basically becomes all variegated and you don't have enough of this green to sustain the plant and give the plant good growth. Okay, so we're talking about percentage of variegation. We see that, the leaves, each leaf is a little bit more or less variegated than the other. And this is because the leaves really only represent a portion of the variegation. When you're looking about variegation, you really need to look at the stem. So I'm going to put this down for a bit, and I'm going to explain why. So let's say that like this, my forearm here is a trunk or a stem, right? Like the main trunk or the main stem of the plant. And this would be variegated, right? There's some variegation here, all around, right? Interdispersed with the non-variegated, the green parts, right? A leaf comes either off here or off here or off here. A leaf only comes off a certain segment of the stem, right? Or the trunk, right? A leaf only comes off a certain segment of the trunk. And so that leaf will represent pretty much just that segment or the variegation in that segment of the trunk, right? So leaf coming off here doesn't really represent anything on this side. It just represents on here, right? The same thing if like your leaf comes off up here or over here, right? It doesn't represent the whole trunk. So when you're looking at and you're judging variegation or the percentage of variegation, sure, look at the leaves. The leaves are pretty, but it's really, really important to look at the variegation pattern in the trunk, right? And that's where you want a good percentage, right? 50-50, 60-40. So when you're buying Monstera, sure, look at the leaves, right? But ask the seller to show you pictures of the trunk, right? Or the stem or whatever you want to call it, right? Like this part, right? The parts that the leaves are going to come off of. My number 2 thing to look for are nodes, right? Nodes are these. This is a node, right? Like this is a node, right? Like this is a node. This is a node. The nodes are where the new leaves and also roots can come off of. I think of nodes as lives, right? Like if you ever played a game and you want more lives, right? Because if you make a mistake or something bad happens, or I don't know, like you're playing and your dog or your sister or brother like runs into you and then you die, right? Like accidents happen, or you suck at the game and then you die, right? Like you want more lives. So it's the same thing about Monstera, right? You want more nodes because each node represents a life. And I'm saying this because like no matter what planting level you are, things happen, right? Like root rot is always a possibility, and it happens to the best of us, right? And so that's always a possibility. Your dog comes by and chews up parts of your plant, or someone like knocks it over and it breaks or something like that, right? Like things always happen, whether or not it's your mistake or whether or not it's just like really, really bad luck. So that's why it's always important that you look at how many nodes and you're buying, I guess, you're buying enough nodes to make you feel comfortable. Okay. Also, in regards to nodes, variegated Monstera can be unstable, right? They are unstable, right? That means that this plant in the future, it can be more green and maybe even revert to fully green, or it grows and it like turns more white and it just reverts to it turns like fully white, the white curse as some people call it, right? So this plant can basically go any direction, all green or all white. So what do nodes give you? The nodes allow you to like cut back. So like, let's say like the next 2 leaves are all white. These nodes allow me to cut back and give me more chances. Like after I cut back, future leaves will come out of these nodes. That will give me a chance to reset my plant. All right, so more lifelines and more chances to reset when your plant becomes out of control or if it's headed in a wrong direction. Nodes they're just like safety nets, more lifelines, right? Whether or not the problem is coming from down here, which is like roots, or think about like pests, right? Or, like I said, accidents happen, and up here, the new growth, if it's reverting or it's turning all white. Those are the 2 things that I would say, the experts look for when they're thinking about buying or selling, or the value of variegated Monstera. The variegation, the strength of it. They also look at nodes, right? I think a lot of experts want more nodes. You should want more nodes. I want more nodes. If you want more things to look for, the next 2 things I feel like down the list are roots. I feel like I look for roots just because I want to know the state of my plant. Am I going to buy this and take it home and it needs to be rooted? If you're new to this and you're not comfortable rooting, or this is going to be your first Monstera, then you may want more roots. If anything, that's probably important. You probably want more roots. If you're more comfortable with plants, then maybe you don't need that much roots. So, the amount of roots they have, you don't need that much. And the last thing that I would look for is that, does the plant speak to you? Do you like the specimen? do you like the plant, right? Does this, like, do these things really bother you? Does this structure really bother you? If it bothers you, then this plant is not for you, right? Like, and if you love it, then yeah, this plant is like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Then get it, right? So I think, like, if the plant speaks to you, that is a consideration. That is a major consideration, because these plants are going to be in your environment, in your house, and like, why get something if it doesn't speak to you, that if it doesn't bring you joy, if you look at it and it, like, really annoys you or something, right? Don't get that plant. Okay, so those are my tips and recommendations, and that ends this video. If here's a shirt. If you guys like a shirt, and get a shirt to support the channel and stuff, like, comment, subscribe, YouTube stuff. Okay. Till next time, happy planting.